Hello, and welcome back to the English Story Podcast, the show where we use stories, ideas, and conversations to help you grow your English skills while also growing as a thinker and human being. I'm Hope.
And I'm Mark. Whether you're a curious learner, a reflective thinker, or someone trying to understand the world more clearly, today's episode is made for you.
We're diving into something that might sound a little unusual at first, but once you understand it, it can completely shift how you think, speak, and interact with others. Today, we're talking about questions, specifically. Why asking the right questions can be more powerful than always trying to have the right answers.
You might have heard the name Socrates before. He's one of the most famous philosophers in history. But did you know he didn't teach through lectures or by giving people advice? Instead, he asked questions. Lots of them.
That method, called the Socratic Method, has been used for thousands of years to help people think more clearly, challenge their assumptions, and discover their own truth. And the best part? You don't need to be a philosopher to use it.
Exactly. Today, we're going to explore what the Socratic Method is, how it works, and how you can use it in your daily life. Whether you're studying English, preparing for an interview, teaching others, or just trying to improve how you make decisions. Learning to ask better questions will take you further than memorizing perfect answers.
Plus, we'll walk through real-life examples, reflect on some of our own experiences with critical thinking, and share useful vocabulary and phrases, so you can improve your English as you expand your thinking.
So grab your notebook or just settle in for a thoughtful conversation. This episode isn't about having it all figured out. It's about learning to ask better questions so you can live and learn more intentionally.
Let's begin our journey into one of the oldest and most powerful tools for learning, the art of the question. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is the Socratic method? Simply put, it's a way of learning and thinking through questions. Instead of giving answers, you guide a conversation by asking deeper and deeper questions.
And it's named after Socrates, one of the most famous Greek philosophers. He didn't believe in lectures. Instead, he would talk to people in the streets, asking them what they believed and why. His goal wasn't to embarrass them or argue. It was to help them think more clearly.
Exactly. Imagine someone says, "Lying is always wrong." Socrates might respond, "What if a doctor lies to help a patient stay calm during surgery? Is that still wrong?" And just like that, the person starts to rethink their belief, not because they were told they were wrong, but because the question showed a new perspective.
That's the power of this method. It encourages reflection. And here's the important part. It's not about winning a conversation. It's about discovering something together.
That's such a great mindset to bring into learning English, too. Instead of being afraid of making a mistake or not knowing the answer, what if we became more curious, more willing to ask, "What does that word really mean?" Or, "Why do we say it like that?"
Let's break down a few useful vocabulary words that come up when we talk about this method. Assumption. This is something you believe to be true, often without even thinking about it.
Example: She assumed he was angry because he didn't reply, but maybe he was just busy.
Bias. A preference or prejudice that affects your judgment.
Example: He had a bias against online learning, even though he'd never tried it.
Contradiction. When two things can't both be true at the same time.
Example: If you say you love animals but eat them daily, there might be a contradiction there. When Socrates asked questions, he often helped people see their assumptions or contradictions, not to criticize them, but to help them grow.
So now that we've explained what the Socratic method is, we'll take you into one of the most famous examples, a fictional dialogue between Socrates and a young man named Euthydemus.
And we'll use that story to explore how questioning can challenge what we think we know. All right, let's take a look at how Socrates actually used this method in a real conversation. Or in this case, a fictional one written by his student, Plato.
Right. In this dialogue, Socrates speaks with a confident young man named Euthydemus. Euthydemus is sure he knows what justice is. He believes lying, stealing, and cheating are always unjust. Seems reasonable, right?
Totally. But Socrates doesn't disagree directly. Instead, he asks questions like, is it unjust for a military leader to lie to the enemy in order to win a battle? Or, what if a doctor lies to a patient to calm them down before a surgery?
And that's where things get interesting. Suddenly, Euthydemus realizes he can't just label actions as good or bad without considering context.
He even begins to doubt his understanding of justice altogether. But that's not failure, that's learning. Socrates believed that admitting I don't know is the first step to wisdom.
Exactly. And this applies to all of us, especially when we're learning or facing complex problems. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can say is, I'm not sure. Let's explore that.
So let's turn this around to you, our listener. Can you think of a belief or opinion you've had that changed when someone asked you a good question?
Or maybe you've been in Euthydemus's shoes, confident about something, and then, boom, one question changed how you saw it.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment or message us about a time when a question opened your mind.
You might think the Socratic method is just a thing of ancient history, but it's actually alive and well today.
Yep, you'll find it in modern classrooms, especially in law schools, where teachers don't just give answers. They ask students to defend their ideas. The goal isn't to catch students off guard, it's to help them think deeper and more clearly.
Right. A law professor might say, what would happen if we applied that law to a totally different situation? It forces the student to test their logic.
And it's not just law. Therapists often use Socratic questioning too. If someone says, I'm a failure, the therapist might ask, what evidence do you have for that? Or, have there been times when that wasn't true?
Coaches and mentors use this approach to help people discover their own answers rather than handing them a ready made solution. It builds ownership and self awareness.
Even in debates or team discussions, using questions instead of arguments can totally change the tone. Instead of saying you're wrong, try what led you to that conclusion.
Socratic thinking helps us resist knee jerk reactions. It encourages curiosity, not confrontation. And that's a skill we all need, especially in today's fast, opinion heavy world.
So here's a thought. The next time you feel triggered or ready to argue, pause and ask one simple, curious question. You might be surprised where the conversation goes.
Let's quickly cover a few useful words we mentioned: logic, clear, reasoned thinking. Example: she explained her plan with strong logic.
Evidence, facts, or proof supporting a claim. Example, what's the evidence for that belief?
Trigger, triggered, an emotional reaction to something. Example: I felt triggered by his comment.
Curiosity, a strong desire to know or understand more. Example, curiosity led him to ask more questions. You know, Mark, I used to think being a good thinker meant always having the right answers. But I realized it's often more powerful to ask the right questions, especially when I'm stuck.
Absolutely. I remember this one moment that really shifted my perspective. A friend of mine asked me, what would you try if you weren't afraid of failing? That one question opened up something in me. I realized I was making so many decisions based on fear, not potential.
That's so relatable. I used to second guess every choice I made, especially in my early teaching days. I was always asking myself, is this the perfect way to do it? But one day, a mentor simply asked, what would good enough look like? That helped me let go of perfectionism and focus on progress.
Wow, yeah. Questions like that are gentle, but they're also powerful. They nudge us toward clarity. I've even started journaling a few of my favorite questions like, what's really important here? Am I reacting or responding? What am I avoiding? It helps me slow down and think instead of jumping to conclusions.
I do that too. One I ask myself a lot is, what else could be true? It helps me see more sides of a story, especially when I'm frustrated or stuck in a loop of negative thinking.
So, listeners, maybe we're not supposed to have all the answers. Maybe we just need better questions, ones that guide us back to the truth, or at least help us move closer to it.
Yes. And the beauty is, anyone can start today. You don't need a degree in philosophy to pause and say, why do I believe that? Or, what am I not seeing yet?
Quick vocabulary boost. Second guess. To doubt or question your own decisions.
Example, I second guess myself after the presentation.
Perfectionism. The need to be flawless or without mistakes.
Example, perfectionism kept her from sharing her ideas.
Perspective. The way someone sees or understands something.
Example, asking questions can change your perspective. Before we wrap up today's episode, we want to leave you with a simple challenge. This week, when you hear something you disagree with, or when you're stuck in your own thinking, pause and ask just one honest question before reacting.
That's right. It could be something like, what else might be true?
Why do I believe this?
What's another way to look at this? It doesn't have to be complicated. One good question can soften a conversation, spark understanding, or even shift your mindset completely.
We're calling this your Socratic moment. Just one question. That's all it takes to get your brain thinking deeper and your heart feeling more open. If you're learning English, practicing how to ask questions is actually one of the most powerful skills you can build. Here are a few useful phrases.
Can you explain that a bit more?
What do you mean by that?
Why do you think that is?
These are conversation-friendly questions that show curiosity and help you grow your understanding.
So now we want to hear from you. What's a question that helped you grow or change your thinking? Share it in the comments or message us. Let's build a community of thoughtful, curious learners.
And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, share it with a friend, and leave a review. It really helps others find the podcast too.
Thanks for being here. Remember, it's okay not to have all the answers. Just keep asking better questions.
See you next time on the English Story Podcast.